Okay, so this is the 13th session log for the Fractured Heart of Stathmore campaign sessions, and it looks like we've actually got everyone here more or less on time for the first time since like the 9th session. Oh, it was a little bit late because of some technical difficulties on my side, but we'll call it on time. So last it was left off, I believe it was they're in this underground dungeon that was hinted to have some Underdark influence, and they spoke to this goblin boss, and this boss is basically, how can I say it? He knows about them. He knows about them. He wants to ruin this group known as the Red Wave. So he says, okay, I'll make you guys a deal. Wendell, who's the resident goblin hater, shot at his lackey. They flipped a switch, went underground, and then they kind of got beaten down in a fight. It's okay, they got revived. So we go to this session, and there's a sack that he kicked off of this pedestal before, it dropping. And it's they open it up, and it's an individual known as Magistrate Abdullah Gajab, who is the Avarian magistrate that is supposed to be coming in the following day. Well, actually, that day, because they spent a night in the dungeon. That day, for the unboxing of this weather experiment by Enoch Tippleton. So it's interesting because, well, the this caravan was said to be late, but it was still coming, and there was said that there were no complications. Everyone was on board, so why is he there? So he explains that they potentially have his son, and that's Pim. So yeah, he's begging and pleading with them. I have one player I want to kill, not character player, because he keeps making fun of this NPC and keep calling him I do a good job. Probably my fault in that one. So they end up finding this hidden room because Alvaro was still awake, so he saw the orc leave to one end of the room, and then he was tending to everyone, so he didn't really have time to look exactly what he did. So it was another illusion. Hidden. It was a wall. It wasn't really a wall. It was more of a doorway. So they go through, and they find a kind of a gruesome, very dimly lit scene of a. Basically, it looks like a lab. It looks like it had also been modified a few times, but there were a few dead troglodytes. There was a drow. There was even a dwarger on the table. So a lot of creatures at Underdark. And so Griffin goes up to inspect the dwarger, and right before this character wakes up, realizes that the dwarger's missing his right arm because he's laying on the table. They're approaching from this end, so they never got to see this arm. And he approaches, and the dwarger just starts rambling incoherently. Well, incoherent to them. And luckily, the sorcerer had a spell of comprehend language. He caught on, so this basically the dwarger saying, those damn goblins, yada 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 yada. A lot of profanities. I came up with a creative one. I just forgot what it was. Anyway, so they eventually release him from his ties. He tears down the Lamashtu. There is actually a symbol on the wall, it's Lamashtu, which is the mother of monsters, from the wall with one hand. So he's itching and raring. And yeah, pretty much at this, 4 troglodytes that were hiding came out. I wish they weren't troglodytes again. I just rolled them on a table, and it just so happened to be troglodytes. So anyway, the players and the NPCs ended up beating the troglodytes, and the magistrate as one thing that they saw. The magistrate actually, one of them went to attack him and ended up rolling a 1. So I was like, okay, well, he tripped, and the magistrate and Wendell, who was right next to them, took their attacks of opportunity. And the magistrate went up to another one, basically brought up his fist, and steam came out of it. But he's an Avarian. It's a bird-like race, so he has like feathers, and it's like just like the steam just flew past the feathers, and then he tries to punch one of them in the face, and he does successfully, and yeah, but ends up biting him, scratching him, and then trying to scratch him again, but more or less went off balance, and his teeth stayed in the arm, so it didn't really do any real lingering damage. It just kind of stayed in there, so he was kind of vulnerable. He couldn't get his teeth out of the magistrate's arm, so the Dwarger beat the crap out of him. Griffin, who had popped behind the table and kind of went missing, and instead is under the vise of the Emerald Weavern, with the mask I had mentioned a few sessions ago, him obtaining. Uh, and then more on that one later. They end up taking out these troglodytes, and the magistrate like pumps up his arm and just destroys this thing, knocks it to the wall. So after that's done, the Dwarger, begins to leave out that same wall, and then kind of comes back, grabs Wendell, grabs Alvaro. Well, one at a time, obviously. He doesn't have his other arm. Shows them this chest, and inside, I like these. I thought I might explain what these looted items were. Basically, 327 gold pieces, ring protection +1, because I hadn't really given him much magic stuff prior to this. A scroll for Aganazar's Scorcher, something known as Malik's king-size bed, the decanter of endless dust, an animal belt pouch, because Wendell has been keeping that rat for a while, and he's been basically threw him in the backpack, and 8 grenades. The 8 grenades, though, have HTTK on the side, which means that there's some kind of connection to the Legion of Steel's Ash, who is, based on Ashley Williams, a.k.a. Bruce Campbell's character. Anyway, the decanter of endless dust, as you take the stopper off, it, water, you can see, just a little bit of water comes out. You pour it, and it pours out at a stream of dust and sand and just, grainy stuff at a speed of 10 feet per round. 10 pounds per round. So, whether they're going to use it for anything, I don't know. And then there's the Malik's king-size bed, and it's literally a 1-inch by 1-inch bed. The Bard rolled a nat 20 into the story of this. It's actually a portable bed, more or less. There's a key phrase that you say. When you say the key phrase, it actually, that little tiny 1-inch by 1-inch bed turns into a 7 by 5 foot bed. And that was given to the mouse because how adorable would it be to have a little tiny mouse having technically a full-size bed as a pillow. And so, so they end up finding the exit after much thought, because the Lamash 2 thing that was on the wall, emblem, was torn down, actually showed a hole, and they climbed all the way back up. It took a while, and they're in line, and they're like, okay, well, there's probably a fake magistrate in the town, so what about the real good job that they have right here? So he says that he's going to hide in the forest, which, he said he's pretty able to take care of himself, obviously. And at this point, starts to rain. No real big deal. And Alvaro has some business in town, so he heads off. Griffin goes elsewhere to purchase some things, while Linton and Wendell search around town. And so when Wendell and Linton finally decide, okay, I'm gonna go to Lord Governor's mansion, the masked Weavern is there, leaning against the wall. I don't even know how to say this one. They obviously know that Griffin had that mask, but it became a nat 20 versus nat 20, and the nat 20 that was higher was Griffin's, so he blatantly said, I'm not Griffin, I don't know who you're talking about, and they believed him. So And as like a cool trick to back that statement up, Griffin threw these two daggers, and because there's pillars right behind Wendell, one hit the pillar, the other one hit the pommel of the other dagger, and then as he went to grab them, Wendell attacked the Emerald Weaver from behind. So like they have this whole thing, and by the way, this knocks him out. Emerald Weaver and aka Griffin is knocked out. So as this happens, I had explicitly said that there was an Imperial Guard, like higher than the Guild Guards in Rotherhithe, was patrolling the area, and he basically big boots him, and as he brings his foot down, Wendell ends up under his foot as well, and Linton is terrified by it, like he failed a fear save, so and Wendell, he tells both of them to get down on their knees. Linton does it. Wendell doesn't. So this after being more or less tackled by Imperial Guardsmen, Wendell decides to try and run. The Guardsman takes an attack opportunity against his back, knocks him out, tells Linton to stabilize him. By the way, at this point, Griffin has woken up from all this commotion and yada yada yada. And this is where things get really interesting. So Griffin, at this point, rolls an acrobatics. Excuse me, he's the Emerald Weaver at this point. By the way, and in stabilizing them, they have clearly seen that this is Griffin. They clearly see that this is him. He goes inside, changes into another set of clothes to be Griffin again, walks out, rolls a nat 20, and says, I just saw that Emerald, some kind of weird guy in a mask and a cloak and all this other stuff roll by. So I said, okay, there's like a 5% chance that this guard is going to let Wendell go in pursuit of the Emerald Weaver. By the way, Linton fell for it as well. He's still under the visors yet, even though the Emerald Weaver has the same face as Griffin and yada yada yada. It's not Griffin. So I rolled a D100 and rolled a 4. So the guard fell for it and started chasing this Emerald Weaver character, who was actually Griffin, through the mansion. So at this point, I had thanked more or less Josh, the player of Griffin, for helping me get out of a hole with writing, because he had literally saved me a couple hours of writing there. But especially since it's like really intensive moment that they have to get the magistrate's son. But overall, really fun session. Was very upset about the technical difficulties, and yeah, actually a few more surprises next one. I know that the magistrate being the not magistrate was the big surprise, but players are gonna get a nice well, we'll call it nice, in the form of a new companion. All right, well, I think that's about it. Bye.